Hello. Yeah, sorry about that. I just had to go back and check where the mic went off. It's just that it's these bloody hotkeys. You press a number to type it in, and sometimes it works fine, other times it's not doing. So anyway, um, the annoying thing. Yeah, but sometimes with that. Anyway, let's get back to what we're talking about. It went off when I was talking about money saving expert, the income statement stuff. So let's go back to this because I've already got the numbers in now. All right. So it says here that. First of all, people don't understand how much actually take home pay that you get. So when you actually put stuff in, so 21 grand a starting wage is very good. You know, a lot of people won't earn that starting wage, but if we said that you're a graduate, you've got a degree, that you've done really well, and you start on 21 grand, I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's as I said, it's not easy to start with a grand. You know, there's people who work work for a long time who don't get to that pay. So let's say that you've done really well and that you're starting on that. That means that your actual take home pay at the end of the month here is £1,395. All right. That means you've got some national insurance to pay, you've got some tax to pay, and there is some pension to take into account as well. Really important pension. We should talk about pensions. We'll do pensions at another time though. But really, really important to do. Start paying into a pension. You can't assume that you're going to have money when you're old. So we start with our 1,380 here, and we start looking back at how much we want to spend. So we say 1,400. Okay, so we're making about £1,400 a month, and then I said okay, let's go with 230. £230,000 house, all right, which isn't unrealistic. I know it sounds like a lot, but it's approaching £250,000. But a lot of people do that. A lot of people mortgage themselves up to their eyeballs, and let's say we've got between two people going for this, 23,000. Okay, not to say that you couldn't yourself, but let's say there's two of you, and that you've managed to get 23 grand together, which is no mean feat. That's pretty impressive if you managed to do that. Then, and we decided to go with HSBC. That's £830 a month for the first 2 years. But if you see down here, then it goes up to just under £1,000, £999.81. And it says early repayment charges apply as well, which just means that you can't go over and above actually repaying it early if you want to. So if we went with this one, then that means we got £830. Now you might be thinking, well, okay, I've got £1,400 a month out of my wages, 830. Okay, it's a big chunk, but that still leaves me with what's that? 830, 70, takes it up to 90, 590, 490? I'm going to do a quick calculation. As I said, it's too early for me, this. 1,400 minus 890, 510. Okay, so we've got about 500 quid left. All right, so 500 quid, that's still over £100 a week that you've got for other things, but you haven't taken into account other things which you probably haven't thought about, like council tax. Council tax is really annoying. Okay, council tax is significant, and it's something that you have to pay. It's a legal requirement when you buy the house. You can't help it. You have to pay it. So if you're living in that house, you've got to pay the council money every month. Okay, and if it's a 200 plus £1,000 house, then you're probably looking at about, for this one, you're probably looking about £220 a month, something like that, £220 a month. Maybe. It might be slightly more, it might be slightly less, depending on where the house is. Probably slightly more, to be honest, but let's say 220. So we've got our 510. We'll take off our 220 for our thingy. That leaves us with £290 a month. Okay. Now, £290 a month from your wage, that's starting to become an issue now, isn't it? Because you're thinking, well, £290, that's less than £100 a week that I have for food, that I have for clothing, that I have for all the bills, and we haven't taken into account all the bills yet, haven't we? So if we take off how much do people pay for mobile phones? Let's say we take 50 quid off for the mobile phone, that leaves us with 240. That hasn't taken into account things like heating and light. Let's say it's £100 for your heating and light on that kind of house. That leaves us with £140 a month actual money to spend. That hasn't, we've not fueled the car, we've not paid for insurance, we've not paid for, because there are house insurance and things like that to pay for as well. So it can be a tricky one. The one thing I would say, if I was to do this again, if I was to buy, if I could go back in time and speak to myself before I'd done this, what I would do is you need to seriously consider what the budget is. What can you reasonably expect to pay? And also, not can you reasonably expect to pay now. But what if there was a significant change to your life? What if you became disabled for some reason, or you were unable to work for a number of, like, so that you were in an accident or something, and you couldn't work for a little while? Could you afford to pay it? Could you afford to pay it on one wage? So let's say that the relationship breaks down, and if you're buying it by yourself, then whatever. But your ability to earn is affected in some way. And also, what a lot of people don't seem to get is they'll mortgage themselves up so they have no money to actually live their lives. You still want to be able to go out. You might have this fantastic house, but it doesn't matter if you can't fill it full of nice stuff, does it? And it doesn't matter if you can't ever see your friends, you can't go to the cinema, you can't go out for a meal, you can't buy a takeaway, you can't, or whatever it is that you want to do, can't afford to go on holiday and things like that. Because, I mean, yes, okay, we're talking about if there's two professional wages coming in, but what if you want to have kids or something like that? It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because you might not have, something might affect your earning capacity that would affect this significantly. So it's something to be really considered about when you're looking at it. So what I would suggest you do, if you are interested in looking at properties and things like that, really go and have a look in depth at your budgeting. Have a look at council tax rates. If you just go on Google and have a look at council tax rates for the place that you're thinking of buying, you can have a look at how much they are at that time. You can also have a look at things like average prices. If you go on Zoopla, which we went on, you can actually have a look at, or is it Money Saving Expert? It comes on. Sorry, not Money Saving Experts. Yeah, here you go. So it can give you an estimated running costs as well for things. Energy, home insurance, water, council tax. So that's saying here that they're looking at about £1,193 a month all in for that. But that depends on how much you've actually spent on stuff, doesn't it? And it's assuming a lot of stuff. Council tax £176 a month for this. I doubt it. No, that can't be right, surely. That's not right. That's more than that. Because I pay more than that, and my house isn't worth that much. I wish it was. So, yeah, it depends on what you want. The main thing I want people to avoid doing is buying a house. This is a nice house. What I don't want you to do is go and buy a house and then have no money to live your lives. Because I've met people, I know people who've done that. They've bought a house and then they've mortgaged themselves up to their eyes and they can't possibly afford things. And that's just a stupid way of doing it. But I totally understand why they do it and how they've done it. And they've been seduced by wow, this is an amazing house, it'd be fantastic to live here. Yeah, it would, but if you thought about the day-to-day running of it, no. It's not something that you can do now because they've stopped doing it. The Help to Buy ISAs that they had going, but there's also another thing which ISAs are a type of bank account that you can get that are tax-free. Now, one thing to remember about ISAs is you get the first £1,000 interest in this country for free anywhere. So you'd have to be getting, you'd have to have quite a lot of money in the bank to get over £1,000 to actually have to pay interest anywhere. Sorry, I have to pay tax on your interest. That's what I mean. I have to pay tax on it because you have to pay tax on your interest. So if you're not doing that, then you're okay anywhere. But ultimately, there are bank accounts. When I was buying my house, there was a thing that came out the government did called a Help to Buy ISA, which meant for every 200 quid you put in the account, they gave you 50 quid, which was amazing. I've never heard of anything like that, the government just giving you money. That isn't available anymore because they stopped doing it because probably they realised that they were hemorrhaging money. But there is a thing called a lifetime ISA, which allows you to basically do the same thing. So if you are interested in buying a house, and this can be, you can be 16 watching this, you could be, you could be younger, you could be slightly older, whatever it is, start paying into a lifetime ISA now if you haven't already. Open one up, start paying into one, because you are never going to get any kind of returns like that, especially at the minute. You're never going to get as much money as that. Let's just have a look. I'll just quickly have a Google lifetime. So is it still available? Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. Here we are. Lifetime ISA, you can put £4,000 a year in it until you're 50. The government will add 25% to your savings to a maximum of £1,000 a year. So, is that the same? No, it's not as good, is it? Yeah, it is. Yeah, so for every £200 you put in, they put 50 quid in, 25%, 25% bonus, essentially, isn't it? It's about that. So you've just got to be careful, because when you tie the money up, you won't be able to. You can take it out, but you'll lose the bonus. All right. So you can still do this. So I would strongly suggest. I'll put a link to this in the description, so you can go and have a look at lifetime ISAs. But yeah, individual savings account. You can open one, and your partner can open one as well. And usually, I don't know whether it's the same now, but you could use the bonuses together as well. So you can use it to buy your own house, your first house, and you can use it to, or you can use it as a pension as well, which isn't a bad idea actually, because they'll do it. But I'm just hesitant to use it for the pension, because it's a lot of money to tie up and that you won't have access to. If you knew you were going to save in for a house, that's different, isn't it? So that's just a basic thing, really. What I wanted to draw attention to really was thingy. In terms of logistically how you buy a house, all you need to do is you go to the estate agent, have the conversation, go and look at the house, then you make an offer. What you do need to have in the middle of it is you do need to have solicitors. So there are solicitors fees to pay, to be able to actually deal with the contracts and stuff like that. So there are untold expenses that you need to need to pay for and things like that. So it's not as cheap. Anything that you think, if you think you know how expensive it is to buy a house, it's slightly more expensive than that. And I've never sold a house yet, so I don't know how expensive it is to that. But I've been told by people who have that it's quite expensive to sell houses as well. So So main thing that I would strongly suggest is look at the house, understand how much the council tax is, understand your budgeting, and understand, do you have the ability to pay this now, but also if something was to significantly change in your life, would you still be able to pay for it? Because it's not something, at the end of the day, if you can't pay your mortgage, they come and take your house off you. It's as simple as that. So you've got to be really careful, because you don't want to be taking a house off you, do you? I hope that's been helpful. To some extent. The only thing I would say as well, and just a sideline issue, before we finish, is be careful about paying off extra above and beyond your mortgage, because you remember about inflation, right? Inflation's the time value of money. That means that £100,000 today is worth more than £100,000 in a year's time, depending on the inflation rate. It means that the value have actually gone down. So it's still called £100,000, but it's actually probably worth more like 98,500, something like that, in a year's time. Now, inflation can be your friend when you get a mortgage, because if you borrow, say, £100,000, then in real terms, your actual £100,000 debt is shrinking all the time, isn't it? It's shrinking. It's actually worth 98,500. Then it's worth 96,000. Now it's there. So every year, depending on the inflation rates, and inflation rates go up, then you will see, you won't see it actually on your balance, but in real terms, in terms of the amount of stuff you can buy with your money and the value, in terms of the time value of money, then your actual value of the amount that you owe is significantly decreasing. So you've got to be careful with that, because if you had some extra money, you decide to pay it off your mortgage, you might. House prices can go up significantly as well. So if house prices went up, then you might gain, say £15,000 on the value of your house overnight. It has happened. So in which case, all that extra saving, all that going without that you've done to be able to get that mortgage down might instantly be eroded by the fact that, well, it won't be eroded, it would be added to, but ultimately you might as well not bothered. You could have had the extra money taken off the mortgage essentially because of the equity that you've built up in the house. Does that make sense? So the value that, if your house is worth more than you thought it was, or the value of the house has gone up. So be wary of spending too much on the mortgage as well. You've still got to live your life. That's the main thing people don't always think about, is they don't think about the actual living side of it, because they've got all the other bills to pay. So think about water, electric, broadband, TV, day-to-day expenses and things like that. I hope it's been helpful. I will talk to you about pensions and things at another time, but if you've got any ideas, or if you've got any questions on mortgages or houses or anything like that, just give us a shout, comment, or whatever it is. I'll get back to you. But yeah, I hope it's been helpful. And here's the cat. I hope it's been helpful for you. Again, something that they don't really talk about very much. And I know it's not been dead detailed, but hopefully it's give you somewhere to start if you're thinking about housing or if you think about that. Even if you're not, even if you're 16, you're not thinking about buying a house yet. Go and have a look because it's really important that you actually understand these things because it's going to make a big impact on your life soon, isn't it? Okay, hope it's been helpful. I will see you